Alright, okay, start with the time. Newsboys turn tides towards two tycoons together. No, how about newsies know newspapers need newspapers? Hey, how'd you get into my office? If you're not going to help me work on my article, then I'd prefer that you leave. Newsboy, you're still here? Fine. Maybe you can help me. Alright, so I'm writing an article for the New York Herald about newsboys, you see, and I'm not making much progress. I have some notes here. Try to think up some ideas while I read them to you. Newsboys, usually aged 5 to 16, sell papers on the streets of New York City. While some kids sell for fun, a majority sell to help support their families. Almost all of them make a living off of hawking papers, though, so they take their jobs pretty seriously. They greatly respect each other's property and selling grounds. When one particular newsboy was asked why he didn't take another kid's better selling ground, he quipped, "He's my boss. I heard of selling grounds being taken, but I never noted. It is his corner." Newsboys wake up at the crack of dawn to go and buy newspapers from a distribution location. They buy 100 papers for 50 cents and have to sell at least 60 to break even. During the Spanish-American War, it was easy to make a profit, but now the sales are much slower. That's about all I have. Oh yeah, I just remembered the most important thing. The newsboys are going on strike. Now is the time to seize the day. Stare down the odds and seize the day. Once we've begun, if we stand as one, someday becomes somehow, and a prayer becomes a vow, and the strike will start right now. Strike, 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 strike. Hey, you know about the strike, right? You don't? Well, the two newspaper companies, New York World and Journal, ain't respecting our rights. I mean, all the newspaper companies made us start paying 60 cents for 100 papers back in 1898. And we didn't care back then because the Spanish-American War was going on and the sales was great. But now there ain't much happening, so the sales ain't doing so well, right? Well, the New York Times, Herald, Tribune, Sun, and all the rest of the newspaper companies, they all put their prices back down to normal. But it looks as if the New York World and Journal think they're making some clever business move. We'll see how clever they think they are after we're done with them. This is Joseph Pulitzer, publisher of the New York World. I hear he's nearly blind, depressed, and extremely sensitive to sound. Hardly the kind of guy to be running a newspaper company, if you ask me. This is William Randolph Hearst, publisher of the New York Journal. Him and Pulitzer are rivals, which may be one of the reasons why them two are the only ones with the high prices. Now that that's out of the way, let's get down to the striking. Our first afternoon goes like this. We all meet up at Park Row to physically stop the newspapers from getting out. We throw bricks at the wagons and tear up the papers, just to get the point across. And we would have done that all evening, except then the cops showed up, and we ain't allowed to hoit the coppers. We may have scattered, but our strike ain't over yet. Look at me, I'm the king of New York. Suddenly, I'm respectable, staring right at you, lousy with stature. It's been 3 days since that first afternoon, and most newsboys have heard of the strike and are acting upon it. All distribution spots have strikers stopping the World and Journal from being sold. While most of the newsboys are all for the strike, there are still those that want to sell the papers. We like to call them scabs, and they're beat up when spotted or soaked. There's change coming once and for all. You make the front page, and then you is major news. Tomorrow they'll see what we are, and sure as a star, we ain't come this far to lose. Hey man, you gotta hear what I just did. So some boys and I saw a scab selling papes, and he had a policeman as his bodyguard. So here's our plan, alright? One of us would come up and grab some papes and run, so the policeman would chase after him. And then the rest of us would go up and beat up the scab and tear up the papes. So I ran up, grabbed the papes, and ran out as fast as I could. The policeman was chasing me the whole time, so I would imagine that the other boys beat up the scab. I hear Pulitzer and Hearst ain't taking our strike seriously. You know what I have to say about that? Just you wait. Just the other day, we made $11 for our strike. $11. We used that to print thousands of flyers that we put in every paper we could get our hands on. I don't think they realize how irreplaceable we are. How else, without us, are they supposed to make sales? How else, besides us, are they supposed to sell their merchandise? How else, besides us, are they supposed to keep their businesses running? Tell me, Mr. Hearst. Tell me, Mr. Pulitzer. How? Now back to the striking. Today we had a huge meeting. Almost 3,000 newsboys showed up at New Haven Hall, where strikers gave speeches. We made important decisions. One such decision was electing our executive committee, which includes Young Diamond, Joe Monix, and a few others. Kid Blink, one of the leaders for the strike, told us to lay low. He said that we don't need to use violence to win the battle. He may be onto something. The way I see it, Pulitzer and Hearst must be hurting financially. Our strike will be a success before the week is through. But that's what we thought, because then Kid Blink betrayed us. He out-the-rest some kids. He was wearing a real fancy suit like he was bribed. We was parading the other day, right? But the police showed up and scattered us. Apparently you need a permit for a parading. The paper's saying that our strike is dead. That was a failure. But I believe differently, though. We're still gonna strike, even more so than before. Behold the brave battalion that stands side by side, too few in number, but too proud to hide, and say to the others who did not follow through, you're still our brothers, and we will fight for you. Now is the time to seize the day, answer the call and don't delay. Proud and defiant, we'll slay the giant, let us seize the day. Right. This morning, more than 2 weeks after the strike began, the Newsies got the victory they deserved. Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst agreed to keep their prices at 60 cents per 100 papers, but also agreed to buy back any papers the boys didn't sell. Well, that's it. I finished my article, and yes! Wow, who would have thought that a bunch of newsboys could band together to take on two huge tycoons? This truly is a feat of willpower. They banded together to protect their rights. This will forever go down in history as the great newsboy strike of 1899.